So, motherfuckers, today we are with the fourth round of the Rapid Under 20 World Champion in Peru. In the first day, I won the first two rounds. I lost the third against Denis Lasavitz. So we go to the second round with 2 points of three. So let's see how it goes. In the fourth round, I play against another Peru player, Jerick Alexander Salazar Flores. I play with the white pieces, and I saw that my opponent plays always the French defense. So in this game, I decided to change a little bit because against knight f6 during the last years I was playing only e5 here. Have many games with this position, and in the channel you're going to see many games with e5. But for this game, like I have one full day to prepare the game because this was the first game of the of the day. So I have a full day to prepare the round. So I decided to play bishop g5 to change a little bit. And here my opponent came with ace h6. With this move, I have nothing, no analysis. I only know a game between Nils Grandelius and Jaime Santos Latasa that I'm going to show us a little bit. The most principal move here was bishop b4. Here I prepare e5. I have a game against an international master of Israel or Bronstein. Play knight e4 and so on. Yes. Sorry, 5 h6. I think. Yeah, now I can go back to many places to the visa. Okay, another principal move was the takes c4, knight takes. Now have bishop d7 or knight d7. Now this move is more or less popular in the last years. The take with the pawn was so interesting for black. And another main move here was bishop b7. No, I have this. I have some games with h4 here. Bishop b7 was possible too. There are some of the main lines. But a6 was interesting too. The first time that I faced this move was in Madrid leagues, like 3 years ago, and I didn't know nothing about theory. But that's the main line. Queen takes, e takes c5, and bishop b4. Um, that is so interesting, this pawn sacrifice for black, of course. For that reason, I decided to play a3, like Nis Grandelius, avoiding all the tactics and all the difficult lines and complicated lines. And this is the positional move a3. Avoiding bishop b4. Now I threatening take on d5. My opponent chose queen d8, for example, because the queen on f6 is not making nothing. Jaime Santos chose c6, who is similar. I'm going to show first the game with which I learned how to play this line. That's a great game of Nick Grandelius 2 years ago in the World Cup. c6, knight f3. Here, all the white moves are good. This is the good white planning this position. Knight f3. This is also interesting here. Knight f3, queen d8, bishop d3. For both sides, this is the normal development. And now, uh, pay attention on that. After black plays b6, white take on d5. So it's so typical, for example, in so Indias, when black plays b6, in that moment, white takes on d5. Because after it takes, now the light square bishop is going to develop via g4 or f5 or f5 here now, but in this diagonal. And b6 have no so much sense if the bishop develop in this diagonal. Now with regrouping of the knight with the pawns on d4 and on d5 the c3 knight is bad place, so knight d2, knight g3 improving the knight. And now black leaves this square, so white takes the a5 square. Logical. Rook e2, taking all the control of the open file. Now, here we can see that black have the bishop pair, but there is not so much important in that position. The black controls the e-file, have a great knight on e5, all the black pieces are well placed. And now, white finally take back the bishop pair. And now the with the move knight g4, white enter in a position who only play for both results. Only white can win or make a draw. Maybe it's not a huge advantage, but white of course cannot lose this. And can look that black can hold more or less easy because there is only these pawns are double, but there are opposite color bishop. But let's see how Grandelli treat this position. For example, here king f8 and followed by c5 was the best. But Jaime player rook d8, and let's see how Grandelli won this game. I'm not going to comment so much. I'm only going to pass the game, but I want that all of us see how Grandellius treat this position. You can search the game then to see slowly if you want this. Grandelius Latasa 2023 World Cup. Yeah, now he has two pawns up and okay, he managed to convert. Yeah, you can follow, you can search for the game then if you want. The most important was the first part, how see how white develop the pieces. Okay, I only know this game, so okay, now let's analyze my game. Queen d8. I here I developed first the knight to f3, was a slightly inaccuracy. Was better to develop first bishop d3. Why? Because after knight f3, okay, black have two ways to develop the dark square bishop, or to e7 or via g7. The problem is that here g6 followed by bishop g7 was the best move because, for example, g6, queen e2, bishop d7, sacrificing the pawn he takes and simply castle. He takes, bishop takes, and okay, for example, castle, queen e3, and bishop d3. But white is slightly better, but black have a great compensation for the pawn. And with these two bishops, the black is so active here. For that reason, after bishop d3, g6 was worse because you can take queen e2 and queen e5. And then again, it's a pawn sacrifice, but the difference is the bishop is in e7, not on g7, which is slightly better for white. But the reason is better to develop first bishop b3 instead of knight f3. Of course, during the game I didn't know that, so I just play knight f3 first. Okay, knight f3, bishop e7, like I thought g6 here was interesting, bishop e7, the normal development, bishop d3. It takes c4, which is a concession, was better to develop the pieces like Jaime with c6, 97 castle normal without take on e4, take on e4 give white a spatial advantage. Knight takes 97, queen e2, c6. And here playing h4, who is good. Another correct plan was long castle. And short castle was possible, followed by rook e1, rook d1, and c4. But okay, this is a possible plan, but was slightly better to long castle. But of course, h4 should be followed by long castle because it's the most logical way to play. You long castle and you attack on the king side. Of course, black is not yet a short castle, but you can still win space, and of course, the looks so logical to long castle in the position. But I play rook d1, planning or to short castle or simply to play king f1 or king g1, followed by rook h3, but that's not the best placement of the pieces. The king should go on c1. And here, c5, look, the response, of course. I plan to take with the pawn, he can take, for example, that could be a possibility, but black should play c5 in that position. As I have many space in the center, you should trade pieces and trade my strong d4 pawn. Okay, he plays a6, sorry, and so slowly move. And now I play the good move c4. Prophylaxis against c5 because now if c5 I can play d5. Followed by d6 and completely better. b6, another slowly move for him. So castle, bishop b7. And now, first I place the rook on the center, and then I make my plan of bishop b1, queen c2. But the machine prefers to play bishop b1 directly without lose a tempo with rook e1. See, the rook e1 is not so important. It was more important to put this pressure into this diagonal, and then c5. That's the correct plan. I make that plan, but first I play rook e1 and then I start with this plan. Sarcasm, and now I have all the pieces development. The pawns are more or less well, all the pawns. I have two pawns in the center, center advantage. The h4 pawn, a3, who is useful. So yeah, I develop my pieces, but now I have no clear breakthroughs, and I should still improving my pieces. So bishop b1 was a good move, making the battery to the king and to try to attack the. No, c5 here was good too. Queen c2 was fine, attacking the queen side, the king side. Sorry, knight f8. Now, well, the knight is a good defender, but he cannot. It's a passive knight, of course. And now great move c5, avoiding black to open the b7 bishop. Now we see that the b7 bishop was so bad place on b7. Uh, okay, right. Yeah, rook 88, normal development move. Development there. And now I should change the c5 blockade and put a knight instead of a pawn. The machines like take here and place the knight, blocking this bishop. Could be interesting too. I played before. Well, the machine doesn't like so much, but it wasn't much. The problem is that I open some files in the queen side for black. A5, yeah, knight g3 and bishop a2 was a little slightly better for the machine. A5 was not bad, but it wasn't the best move. A takes, bishop a6, knight e5, he takes, and the machine again prefers to place the knight on c5 instead of the pawn. And now he take back the bishop pair and looks great at position for white, of course. But okay, and b takes e5, I still with advantage. For the moment, I was playing more or less well. I make some slightly mistake, like for example, this rook d1 in the move 12. So yes, instead of long castle. But okay, for the moment, I was playing good. I had good position. But after f5, sorry, after f5, I make a huge mistake. I play knight c3, more or less, no more or less fast, but yes, more or less fast. And after bishop f6, I have no good response. That's incredible. Here, knight g3 was the best move, simply because it's not a great square, but the problem is on c3 is hanging and it's not defending the c4. The queen is not defending the c5 pawn, and this knight is hanging. I'm not defending the c4 square, which is so important. For example, with knight g3, if he plays the same move like in the game bishop f6, here I have knight c4. Here placing a knight on d6. But after knight c3, I have a knight c4. He's taking my strong knight. 96 was interesting too, sacrificing a pawn and yeah, let's just play. Now the c6 pawn is so weak. The e6 pawn is so weak. His king is open. His a6 bishop is attacking nothing in an empty diagonal. Yeah, that's a good way to play. But knight c3. After the bishop f6, I start to think I didn't see anything good for me. Now the position was equal. Because I have a knight c4 was my idea. Bishop e2 was good. For example, here I have these lines. Okay, queen a2 was not so bad. Here the machine prefer take with the pawn a little bit. Okay, I take with the rook there. And here I should take on e6. Fuck. Rook d1, rook e1. So discover attack and I take the rook. But I play rook d1 more or less fast because I was thinking that the machine says that I completely lost. But during the game I think that I have counterplay because I have my bow rook active and I'm threatening the bishop on a6, I'm threatening bishop takes f5. I was thinking that I have counterplay. And I saw, sorry, and bishop c4, queen b2. And here I saw rook b8, of course, but I planning knight here. What happened that simply rook d8, rook Ah, yeah, rook d7. This knight is pinned. This is what I realized. I'm not totally threatening the queen because my queen is hanging on b2. Maybe rook b8. Black's close to be winning. Apart, I have planned to play knight d5 fast. So here I'm losing. Rook g4. Here I play f3 because I calculate bishop takes f5, rook b8. Queen b8, bishop, rook d2, sorry, king and queen. And here I saw that we have the same material, well, same material, two rooks versus queen and a pawn, with the same material, 10 points and 10 points. But what's the problem here? Is that I have a open king against a queen. And when you have pieces against a queen and you have the king open was back signal. And I've been through the machine say that black is better here. But because my weak king against a queen without I have a queen to defend. But what's the problem is that bishop f5 was the best move because that's only the end of this line was only +1 for black. But after f3 the machine said that I'm completely losing. But I prefer this position which is a little bit more complex and especially in a rapid games than the another position who for me is clear that black is better. Here, okay, black could be better or winning, but it's a little bit complicated, especially for rapid. Okay, rook h4, here I can take here, of course. For the reason rook h4 is bad. And free pawn. During the game I calculate that, that queen h2, king f2, and I take many time to realize that here is nothing is happening for me, so wait is fine here. Rook d8, now the position becomes more equal. Here I like bishop h3 so much because defend the g2 pawn who is my principal weakness and apart attack on e6. So and the bishop cannot never be attacked on h3. So I really like this bishop on h3. Rook d2, queen h4, rook d4, rook 5 e4, and here my opponent lost those blunders a bishop. So until here the position was equal and my opponent blundered a bishop. So the rest was easy. I play until checkmate. I don't know. So I don't know how more to say about that game. Um, let's review. Okay, the first important moment was there in the move 7. Learned that bishop d3 was more accurately than knight f3 to like a prophylaxis against the move d6 with this line. The next important moment here is know that if you play with black, never take on e4, simply play c6, more solid, not take on e4. And here, the way to play was long castle, of course. Rook d1 was a so strange move. Okay, but after rook d1, I still playing well. I make this plan who is better to play here, but okay, I play with rook f1, who is not a disaster. Queen c2, c5, here I have a great position. And now let's see how I lost all my advantage. Okay, first, before is slightly strange. I can improve my queen either with queen b3, queen c3, or simply with taking and knight c5. Was interesting to show how the machine plays the knight on c5 two times. And here this again, bishop a2, interesting. Knight d3, and here in h5. And again, interesting in this line, the machine plays the knight on c5. My last fail to lose all my advantage was knight c3, a careless move. After bishop f6, I have no good reaction here. Okay, so go to g3 and knight c4 with advantage. And the rest, okay, was less interesting. Okay, after that round, um, I have 3 points of 4, more or less well. So let's see. I know, of course, how continue the tournament, but okay, let's see how continue the tournament. Bye bye.